Hello and a very good evening to you. New recruits for the Metropolitan Police will only be considered if they've lived for 3 of the last 6 years in London. It's a radical new attempt to increase the number of Black and Asian officers to make the Met's ranks more reflective of the people they serve. The Met hopes to recruit 5,000 new officers by 2016. But critics say it's unfair on would-be officers who happen to live outside the capital. This report is from our Home Affairs correspondent, Guy Smith.
On parade this afternoon. Tomorrow they'll be taking their first steps on the capital's streets. They're the latest batch of new recruits, starting what will be, they hope, a long career with the Met. The Mayor of London promised to keep numbers up to 32,000, but he has a problem. London has a population of more than 8 million, 40% of which are from a black or minority ethnic background. The Met, though, has just 11%. Today he announced a new recruitment policy, banning anyone from outside London from joining. Aren't you in danger of being challenged by the courts?
Well, we'll see about that. I mean, we've obviously done a lot of work with my learned friends to make sure that it's okay, and I think it will be fine. And it's for a couple of years, basically to encourage Londoners, people from all across the city, to think of themselves as potential police officers.
Earlier this year, the Met Commissioner called for a temporary change in the law to allow positive discrimination. He wanted one ethnic minority recruit to every white one, but so far he hasn't got his way. This new policy, though, is halfway to achieving that.
We want people from London to want their children to come and join the Met. This is a fantastic organisation. We police one of the world's great cities. We need the best of skills.
You're originally from Yorkshire. Under these new rules, you wouldn't be able to join.
Well, what we're saying is if we've got a narrow band of skills, a narrow pool of skills, we would still take people from outside London. So whether you be a firearms officer or a detective or a chief officer, then we were still prepared to take people from elsewhere.
The Met has a huge challenge. Ever since it was branded institutionally racist 15 years ago, it's struggled to look like the people it serves. And with London becoming ever more diverse, the problem may only get worse. So the new policy, which starts next month, means only those living in the capital for at least 3 of the last 6 years will be able to apply.
I think it has the potential to increase diversity, not just by way of colour, but by way of thinking, and that's got to be good for the police and for our communities.
Others are not so convinced.
I think it's a bit of a snub to the officers who actually work in the Met at the moment. So I think get back into those communities, work hard at convincing them that this is the job for them, and that's a better way to go than enforce false restrictions.
But it's hoped the restrictions will mean a more diverse workforce and in turn boost confidence in policing. Or at least that's what he thinks. Guy Smith, BBC London News.
Well, to discuss this, I'm joined in the studio by Ken Hines, chairman of the monitoring group for Stop and Search in Haringey, and also Mike Pannett, a former Metropolitan Police officer and Yorkshireman, who's in our Leeds studio. Very good evening to both of you. Ken Hines, let me turn to you first, because this has already raised eyebrows. But you welcome this move, don't you?
I think it's a good initiative coming from the Met. It's something that I've been personally campaigning for quite a number of years, to have the police, the Met Police force reflect the community it serves. And since you find that Black and Asian makes up 1/3 of the Londoners, of the 8 million Londoners we got here, I believe it's about time that the police force was reflective of that community, diverse community which it serves.
Mike Pannett, if I can turn to you, you served in the Metropolitan Police Force. You know, as Ken said there, it's trying to reflect the people it serves, but it does also, I suppose, write off thousands of people who don't live in London. What do you make of that?
Well, first of all, I should never have been in the Metropolitan Police. I had 10 fantastic years and worked in a very diverse communities with Battersea and got to know that community very well. And it disappoints me that they're taking this very narrow view within recruitment terms. If you look at just the recent recruitment, say, into the Metropolitan Police, the big questions are 60% of the people that successfully sort of applied to join the Metropolitan Police, out of those 60%, 6% were outside of London. And out of those 60%, 10% of them were people from ethnic and minority backgrounds. And I've spoken today to people who from different backgrounds in Manchester, in Birmingham, in Liverpool, who'd love to join the Metropolitan Police, but now they're restricted. So we're already writing off hundreds of the very people the Metropolitan Police are looking to recruit.
Mike raises a good point there, doesn't he? I mean, not only current serving officers who are doing a great job, Mike wouldn't have even have been in the force had these restrictions been in place. Shouldn't we be going for the best person for the job rather than where they live?
Let me just make this clear, because I work around stop and search, and when you have something like 1.2 million stop and search being done, we're all well aware of the disproportionality levels where if you're black or from the minority community, you're disproportionately targeted and stop and search. What my whole thing is about this is that what we're doing, we're giving our inexperienced police officers the most intrusive power to go and stop and search people. And what's happened is, if you've got a background that they're from outside of the London area, you'll find that they're not really aware of the sensitivities and the different cultures, different needs and experiences within the community.
That's an interesting point, isn't it? Because as we heard the Commissioner say in Guy's report, this only applies to new recruits, and if this is the only way to change the makeup of the force, it has been criticised, you know, time and time again about its relationship with black and Asian communities.
Listen, that's absolutely right. The Metropolitan Police have moved very quickly forward. 15 years ago, when McPherson was talking about the issues within the Metropolitan Police and institutional racism, there was around about a 3% makeup of black, minority and ethnic officers. That's now gone to 11. You can't just, and it's interesting Ken talks about stop and search there, you cannot just swick a switch and suddenly get a lot of people wanting to join the police. Look, the thing we need to do is get into those communities and ask why are they not joining the police. And I'll tell you for why. If there's a number of key issues here. One is if you're coming from a low-income family, from a deprived background, say, how are you going to afford the what's called the bobby tax? You know, let's look at that, let's remove that. And the other thing, if you join the police from let's say, a difficult community, you know, where are you going to live? You cannot live in that very community that you're going to police, and where they're going to afford to house them.
Mike Pannett from our Leeds studio, thank you very much indeed. Ken Hines for joining us here, thank you. It is an interesting topic and I'm sure one we'll discuss further. Thank you both. Well, of course, we would like to hear from you on this. Do you support the Met's efforts to recruit people who reflect London's diversity, as Ken was saying there, some of the issues? Or perhaps you would like to work for the Met but can't afford to live in the capital, an issue raised by Mike there. Please do get in touch. The details should be on your screen now. Stay with us. Coming up later in the programme.